I would love to hear the story. I mean, whatever you can share. I don't know if it's complete or well, I'm talking about it, so it's done.
Yeah,
I would
we're
love to
talking
hear
about
like
it.
how that came about. How was it presented to you? What
Mhm.
made you say, "Hey, look, we can make this happen"? I mean, you shared a little bit when we talked a few weeks ago. We can make this happen, and what the future holds, for the E.G. Bowman agency.
Absolutely. Listen, I think the biggest piece here was it's an iconic brand, right? So like everyone knows Ernesta as an individual, but then especially within the New York City and even across all 50 states, right? Like I'm out in Chicago 2 weeks ago and I'm meeting with other Black-owned insurance agencies and brokerages, and everyone has a story about at some point in their career journey, they came across Ernesta, and sometimes it was great, right? Where they were talking about like, yeah, she opened the door for me. Other times it was she gave me tough love, but it ultimately made me a better broker or agent. And I think that that's impact, right? Like she was able to like affect the lives of a lot of the businesses that we see today that they wouldn't have been able to start without this head start that she really provided for them and a lot of the barriers that she broke down. But I guess just to kind of like set the stage, right? Like I ended up learning about E.G. Bowman from my time working at Marsh back from 2013 to 2017, because this is actually really important, particularly if folks are looking at starting their own brokerage or agency, depending on where you're at, like especially like if you're in that, like I know you're in Richmond, but like there's a lot of folks that might be in the Northern Virginia area, right? And you have access and proximity to DC. If you're in New York, you're in Chicago, you're in Atlanta, you have a lot of areas that have particular set asides for minority owned businesses, right? To where they would say 15% of this contract needs to go to a minority owned business.
Yep.
15% of the contract needs to go to a female owned business. 6% of the contract needs to go to a service disabled veteran owned business. So I ended up getting connected into them because they actually used to work with my former employer, Marsh, on a lot of city and state government type of work, right? As well as some other like corporate Fortune 1000 type of work. But really where they cut their teeth was in working with a lot of the different municipalities around the New York City area. So I just always kind of knew about them. And for me, as I kind of looked at, all right, well, Safari is going well, but I kind of recognized that starting a business is really hard, man. Like you're like everyone, like as you're getting up and you're starting your book of business, or you're trying to like go out and get that entrepreneurial grind. Like Rob, you know exactly how that is, bro. Like
Oh, I know.
it's a grind. It's
I
an
quit every
absolute
day. I think I said that when we first. I quit.
every
I
day.
quit and rehire myself every day.
Every day, every day. And listen, you clock in, you clock out, like it's the same game. So, for me, I was like, all right, well, I'm seeing a lot of really smart money pile into this acquisition space. How do I get a cut of that? And I very much so recognize that you almost kind of have a differentiator, right? When you are someone of color that's going to buy a business that's owned by other people of color, right? Because they unfortunately, there's just so few of them, and the actual pool and the universe of them is so small that as they think about legacy and succession, they want to make sure that we don't lose a minority-owned brokerage to a majority firm. And that's not to say that there's like any particular dynamics there. It's just we need more minority-owned insurance agencies and brokerages to serve our community. Boom. So I ended up getting connected into this because I'm a pest. And I literally just was calling them. I knew that I wanted to buy a business. I knew that I wanted it to be in New York. And I was just calling them every day, every week, sending follow-up emails all the time until they were just like, we're tired of hearing from you, come in for a visit. And we ended up going through the whole negotiation process. I gave them an offer, slid it across the table. And it was fair based on what current market conditions are kind of providing there. So, I mean, the hard part of everything when you're looking at acquisitions is you got to go out and raise the money. So that was the hardest part of kind of the journey for me, was finding someone that was going to go out and provide me with the funding. Like I put in a substantial portion, basically every dollar that I had into this acquisition. And then I was fortunate enough to find a bank that was able to basically provide us with the debt, as well as a small investor that provided us with a small portion of the equity that we needed. So really the big thing for me was I wanted to make sure that this business that has been shrinking in size, right? Like at its peak, it probably had about 40 to 50 employees, was doing millions of dollars in revenue. And over time, it's shrunk, right? Because they didn't hire on new sales talent. They weren't trying to grow. They were basically, exactly. right? And they didn't have that young talent coming in the door. So it's very much so there was pride in it where I just wanted to make sure there's only two Black-owned brokerages, sorry, three in the New York City area, us and two others, and all owned by Black women at one point or another. So shout out to Black women in the insurance industry, because they listen, they're holding it down. Like, I would say of the top 10 largest, you'd probably see about 50 to 60% of them are Black women owned in the country right now. So I wanted to make sure that we had something that can be for our community and that can continue to kind of carry that torch within our community as a Black-owned firm that is of scale and that is sophisticated. That's the most important part. And that's really what I'm looking to do longer term. Like, one of the things that I run into sometimes, like when we're working with larger brokerages or even carriers, is that they have a very particular way that they look at minority-owned brokerages, and they kind of view us as, oh, they're just here because they have to be, not necessarily because they can do the job. And I'll go toe to toe with any broker anytime, like any day of the week, because I got great training. And I know that like everyone that I'm going to hire onto this team will also have great training. But I also know that there are a lot of minority-owned, Black-owned, brown-owned insurance agencies out there that unfortunately are still going to continue to get looked at like that. I'm still going to be running into that issue, right? So I think for me, as I kind of think about the future, we got to grow. And we got to grow, and we got to go out and grow via acquisition, because I'm lazy. And the thought of just building up a book of business organically just sounds scary and hard. But, I think too, there are several firms in this country right now that are Black owned, that are brown owned, that are at a level of scale, but we need more. And there's always going to be more room at the table for more minority-owned brokerages to come in and do the job the right way, which is really what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I think that the last statistic that I saw as far as agency managers, principals, and executives was about 3%.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of space, for us to find our way. So tell me, man, and I got a couple more questions, but I want to know, like, 5-10 years from now, I mean, you've done some phenomenal things, and it's still early. It's still early in your career,
Bro, I'm 2 months in. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, it's still really early. I mean, you're a young guy, and you got years of impact left to make. What's the big vision for you, man? What's the end game? What's the end goal?
So I think the biggest piece here, and I don't like to attach like numbers or anything like that. Like, listen, there's a lot of opportunity for us to create wealth for our employees, for the folks that we go out and acquire, right? Like, there's so many of those like agency owners out there that are 60, 65 that they've been working for 30, 40 years, and now they get the opportunity to cash out on that. So that's a big piece of it is, I can provide a wealth creating opportunity for someone on the other side. So that's a big piece of it. But I would say for me, if there's a way for us to be able to build capacity, and when I say build capacity, I mean, how do we use this platform that we've developed? And we're going to grow, and we're going to grow through acquisition. But then how do we use that as a way to work with folks like Ngazi, right, that are going out and identifying opportunities for existing brokerages, Black-owned brokerages, to be able to grow, right? And as I kind of think about capacity building, that's not only working with existing smaller agencies, but also working with getting new agencies started up, right? Because a part of the way that the game is played right now is that there's so many barriers to entry sometimes when you're looking at like starting up a new agency or brokerage, right? You've got to get all the carrier appointments. You've got to, work through that whole process. So I think for us, if there's a way for us to basically go out, grow, and get a name in the market that people come to respect even more than they already do, while also being able to say, all right, we've helped start 1,000 new independent agencies and brokerages that are all owned by folks of color. That's all that I need. That's all that I'm good at that point, right? Like, so that's the long-term vision. Like, I think, listen, would I like to be able to start a carrier that serves our market, because we can kind of create a check and a balance against some of the things that carriers like AKA Cough Erie and others that are unfortunately doing some bad things in our community. Yes. So, but we need
not saying no names. We're not saying no names. No, we're not saying nobody's names of anything. Could be We know the industry we work in.
We know how that goes. We know how that goes. But basically what I think is most important here is showing people that it can be done, but then also providing them with the infrastructure for them to be able to do it on their own. And at that point, you have a repeatable process. You have the infrastructure that can support others that operate under you. And now you're talking about capacity building. You're talking about being able to create that next generation of minority-owned insurance agencies and brokers. Easy.
Man, when I hear you speak and I hear the vision and I see it, man, and it's gonna come to fruition 100%. I think about, stories like, what Brown and Brown has built, and how they went from being a mom and pop shop to this, publicly traded powerhouse, multi-dollar company. And I see that absolutely happening. And I'm inspired by what's happening in the marketplace with you and E.G. Bowman, with Atlanta Life and their kind of rebranding and what's happening. It's just an exciting time, in this business. And I really hope that more people take the opportunity to not just approach it, as a job or as something to do, but as a true career path where you can make a significant impact to society, like those pioneers, like Ernesto Procope and individuals like Alonzo Herndon, did back in the day. I mean, you're the new class of that. Ngozie's the new class of that. Quincy Branch is the new class of that. It's like, Absolutely. So there's people who are carrying on, in those same traditions, and it's an exciting time, man. Before we get out of here, we've talked a lot, man. Man, this has been a phenomenal conversation.
Absolutely.
How do you feel? Listen, all the things that we've done, I think that we know the answer to this question just by listening to the conversation. But just to summarize, how do you feel like having a license has impacted your life?
Oh, I think the biggest piece here, and it kind of touches a little bit on what you were talking about before with regards to the different opportunities that exist in this industry. I think for me, I recognize even like, I'll be very real with everyone, right? Like on the Safari side, like when you're starting a business, my cash burn rate is so much higher than my income level. So I was hemorrhaging cash, but you know what I had? I had a license and I was able to go out and get some of my family covered, worked with a small business to get them coverage, right? That's income that I'm just able to make because I just have a license in the state of New York. I had some contacts in the insurance industry that were able to get it quoted. And next thing I know, I've got a 10% commission check in my bank account that basically helped me further create this path towards realizing my dream on the entrepreneurial side. So I think the beautiful part of it is that a license it's like a license for, no pun intended, to have a universe of opportunities. If you want to work and you want to go climb the corporate ladder, get that license and you can go work on the traditional side. If you want to work and you want to get your license and you don't want to hear anything from anyone, you want to roll out of bed at 11 and log off at 2, if you can produce in 3 hours per day, go for it. You have a license to be able to do so. And it just creates so much flexibility and optionality in your life, which is the biggest thing that I take away from the fact that I have a license today, is that it was helpful for me in like keeping my lights on, but also it's now exposed me to this whole world of entrepreneurship that I've come to learn exists over time. And now it's just like the sky's the limit, right? Like, and like the thing that everyone will talk about in insurance is that it's uncapped, right? Like Lil Wayne would say, we have no ceilings in this industry. There are no ceilings for the type of opportunity that you could have and the type of opportunity that you have to be able to create wealth for you and your family. It's really that simple.
And you can move and progress. I typically ask, what would you tell someone who's thinking about getting into the industry? I think you summarized that, perfectly, very eloquently, just in that statement right there. No caps, no ceilings, unlimited opportunity. You always have the ability to earn, and you can leverage that skill into other career and learning progressions as you've done. I think one of the things that I think is really going to be powerful when this conversation, hits and people can hear it, is the fact that you can see that, hey, you don't have to stay in one place, which is why I love that your LinkedIn profile says insurance entrepreneur, because you don't have to just stay in one place. You can start here and just evolve to this and evolve to this and evolve to this. Hey, look, Jelani, man, listen, it has been amazing. If somebody wants to get in contact with you, they want to reach out, they want to find out about Safari, they want to find out about E.G. Bowman. They're like, hey man, shoot, I want to see what I can do to work with that brother up there. How does somebody reach out to you? How do they get in contact with you?
So feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. So I always take a look through my inbox and my contact requests there. Also, if you want to shoot me a direct email, you can just reach out. It's my first name, J as in John, ELANI at Insure, INSURE, Safari, SAFARI.com.
Hey, look, thank you so much. Jelani, man, this has been amazing. This has just been amazing, man. I can't wait to get up there and get some of that Trinidadian food.
Bro, come on up, baby. The water is warm, bro. We got to get that going ASAP.
I need some vegan stuff, though. I do need some vegan stuff. I'm just saying.
We got you on that. Listen, the spices that we work with are A1. Like, there's so many different vegan curries that are out there in the market right now. So we got that on lock.
Yes,
you got that on lock, bro. So listen, I appreciate you inviting me on to tell a little bit more about our story. And listen, I appreciate everything that you're doing, because this is a really, really important conversation that is going to just multiply over time. Like, this is the true on-ramp into the insurance industry that people need. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you. And for those who've been listening to this conversation, please know that wherever you want to go, this industry has a way for you to get there. And there's a multitude of paths that you can take. And maybe listening to Jelani and hearing his story, how he started, how he's transitioned into some major entrepreneurial moves, you heard something that made you think to yourself that you should get a license. Until the next time, peace.